Hello, and a very warm welcome to my little cottage garden in Cambridgeshire in the UK. We've had a week of windy and wet weather in this part of the world. It's been wonderful to have rain after several months of drought. I've not had to hand water the garden all week, which is quite a relief. But the wet weather, plus the fact that the evenings are getting shorter, has really limited the time that I spent in the garden this week. The sun came out on the weekend, so I was able to get out into the garden and get a few jobs done. It turned out to be one of those days when I set out to do one set of jobs, but then end up doing a whole other set of things different to the ones I had planned. We've had some cold nights, with the temperatures going down to 10 degrees Celsius. So I had planned to prune and repot my Bougainvillea this weekend and bring it back into the house. But I couldn't bring myself to cut off the beautiful bracts, so I've decided to leave it outdoors for another week or so. I was also planning to pick all the peppers, because once the cold nights set in, they are unlikely to mature any further outside. But it is forecast to get warmer again, so I've decided to wait another few weeks. Looks like a slug has been at that one. I watched a video last week on my Wild Welsh Garden YouTube channel about maintaining wildlife ponds. My pond has lots of algae and it looks like it needs cleaning, but when I checked the water, it was completely clear, which means the pond is healthy. I was pleased to see that. I did try to move some of the blanket weed away from the area where the birds bathe. I'll leave it by the side of the pond a few days so that any pond-dwelling creatures can climb back into the water before I put it on the compost heap. I have some really tall sunflowers blooming in the garden, and I was worried they might blow over, so I added some makeshift supports. They are at least 10 feet tall, perhaps even 12 feet. I don't have any long canes, So I'm using 3 short ones to make a kind of tripod at the base of each plant. It isn't ideal, but it's better than nothing. I noticed something strange about this rose bush. I cut it back hard about 3 weeks ago and it has put out a couple of new shoots. But the new shoots have so many more thorns than the main stem, which is actually quite smooth. I have no idea why this has happened. The new shoots actually look like they come from a different plant. And the new shoots are growing super fast. I'm assuming that this is because this is an established rose with a well-developed root system. So it's channeling a lot of nutrients into the new shoots. But I want the plant to bush out rather than grow tall, so I cut it back. One job I have been putting off is pruning the wisteria. Some of the tendrils are getting really long now, so I can't put it off any longer. The brown stems are last year's growth, and the green stems are this year's new growth, which will bear the flowers next spring. The buds that will produce next year's flowers are already forming, and the conventional advice is to count a maximum of 6 buds and cut off the rest so the plant can concentrate its energy into developing 5 or 6 racemes. And then come spring, you can prune it back even further to 3 or 4 racemes. The angle was a little awkward, so I wasn't able to video it all, but you can see that it's looking much more compact now. While I was pruning, I decided to cut back the philadelphus as well. The philadelphus and the wisteria will both need to be pruned again in February. They would have dropped their leaves by then, and I'll be able to see the structure of the branches better. One side benefit of the late summer prune is that I get lots of green material to go into the compost. I was in Lidl this morning and they had crocus bulbs going for 99p for a pack of 12. And I remember seeing the exact same pack in the garden centre a couple of weeks ago for £3.50. So I thought this was quite a bargain. I'm going to plant them in this little grassy area which gets sunshine most of the day. I think crocuses would like it here. The instructions say to plant them about 5 centimeters deep, so I'm using the trowel to take a rough measurement. All done. I also planted some tulip and daffodil bulbs that I saved from springtime. I'm planting them in clumps of 4 or 5 so that they look natural. The daffodils are pretty reliable, but I don't know if the tulips will come back. But I have nothing to lose by trying. I added a thin layer of mulch. I will add some more later on in the autumn. Fingers crossed that I get some lovely daffodils and tulips in the spring. I also wanted to divide this giant geranium, but I think I'll leave that task for next week. That's all for today. If you made it this far in the video, please give it a like or leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a very wonderful week.